So in the final game before Christmas, we came from behind to earn a 1-1 draw against Coventry, but maybe it should have been more, all things considered, Glenn. It was a frustrating afternoon, especially that second half.
Yeah, it was. And the first half was frustrating as well because it was pretty poor from our point of view. We had the team selection where Tom Fellows obviously didn't make it enough to start the game, so we started with Wellington. And when you're putting a completely different profile player in, you kind of need to do something slightly different, don't you? Otherwise, you're just not going to get the same results. And it just seemed like that word we used last week, stodgy. Our attacking play didn't seem to have much about it in that first half. It was either Cienza or nothing. Azaz was having a game where he basically had lead boots on, didn't he? He just didn't. The first touch was bad. Nothing seemed to work for him. Adam Armstrong didn't get much service, but was kind of anonymous. So I thought the first 20 minutes were kind of a non-event, really, both teams. But then we had sort of like two half chances out of the blue where Armstrong got put through, snatched it wide, and we, I think, a good bit of pressing out on the left, and Cienza came in from that side and hit the goalkeeper. Decent save, but he probably should have done better.
Quality assist, that one, I think.
Yeah, that's true. So it's shame we didn't take the lead. Coventry came more into it. At the end of the first half, they had a sort of half shout for a penalty, which I thought was rubbish at the time, and nothing I've seen on the replay suggests anything other than that was rubbish.
Good, that's that covered.
Yeah, no, I just didn't think it was. I just thought he's just fallen over there, but a little bit of pressure come on, and he's gone down. But then they score, and it's another completely soft, horrible goal. And it's been highlighted that we had 7 players in the box and no one marking the little guy who scored at the back post. It's just horrible. It's the same old thing where no one's taking responsibility. It's not enough just to be in the penalty area. You've got to be taking responsibility and picking your man up. So it's a bit of an old bugbear, that. I just repeat what's said plenty of times before. I just think when you play with 3 big centre halves, there's a temptation to think someone else is going to do the job for you. And but just marking players is basics. And Harwood-Bellis is the guy who's been sort of pinged largely for losing his man there. So it's a 1-0 down at half time. I thought we were going to struggle, second half, and I thought we'd probably get beat 1-0, all things considered. But then the red card after 1 minute of the second half kind of changes everything. And but still, you're worried that Coventry are going to low block it for the entire second half, and we're going to struggle because our attack isn't functioning. But we get back into the game. We get the equaliser relatively quickly. I think it was about 7 minutes later, was it? 7 or 8 minutes. And then having equalised, you expect us to build up a head of steam and go on and win it, but we never really did. Never really created enough pressure. There were sort of half chances where, snapshots from the edge of the box sort of thing, but nothing that severely tested the goalkeeper. We kind of tried to make the pitch wider, which of course you have to do against 10 men by, Fellows on one side, Cienza on the other. But we didn't play the ball quickly enough. We didn't move them around enough, didn't play it quickly enough. And then we had the bizarre Bazunu in the penalty area when there was still 5 minutes to go, which is nuts, absolutely nuts on the face of it, because Tonda was saying, we try everything to win the game. Yeah, but you don't try getting rid of one of your centre halves and putting another attacker on. So it was a bizarre tactic to reach for. But at the end of the day, no harm done. But I thought 1-1 was a fair result, and in the second half, Coventry got what they came for, but we didn't do enough to deserve to win it, I don't think, especially in the second half against the 10 men.
Yeah, a lot of people, especially in the comments tonight, actually, Steve, saying we'd have probably taken a point before the game. So it's probably a fair result in the end, but it was just difficult to sit through.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And I completely agree that before kickoff, I think you probably would be reasonably satisfied with the point against the runaway leaders. But I guess combination of things, we've built up a bit of a head of steam in home games in the last sort of month, 6 weeks or so. Coventry came into this with both their starting centre-backs ill, So they were playing a makeshift centre-back pairing, and we didn't really do enough. Wolfenden, we know, is decent enough at this level. He was good with Ipswich 2 years ago. But Laboutier, I think I've vaguely pronounced that right. I don't think he played a minute all season. And yeah, we've not put anywhere near enough pressure on him, kind of given those circumstances. Although I think I will kind of slightly disagree with Glenn in that I thought we were okay first half. I didn't think we were terrible. A lot of the link up was a little bit disjointed, but our better chances were created in that first half. The Adam Armstrong one about 10 minutes or so in, I think just his first touch takes him a little bit too wide. And actually, he probably has more time than he thinks he does. He probably could have taken another one and set himself a little bit better. But I think we all probably also agree that the more touches he has, the more time he has to think about it, and the more chance of it kind of going horribly wrong, as we saw earlier in the season. But then Cienza has made a couple of good chances. I mean, that first one, it's just a dreadful finish. It's really, really soft. I mean, he's basically passed it at the keeper's standing foot there.
Do you think you should have squared it? I think it was Armstrong.
There was a square pass possibly on, but there's a defender there as well. So I think if you pass it and you don't get it right, then you look far worse than just missing the shot.
And I think he's playing well, isn't he? So he's got every right to take it.
He's playing well. He's playing with confidence, and frankly, the shot that he took was in a position where you probably should be shooting from. He's just not hit the shot very well. He's just massively under-hit it, and it's made it a relatively comfortable save for the keeper in the end. He, of course, then made one entirely for himself right at the end of the first half, where he slalomed through 3 or 4 players, everybody kind of ducking out of the way so they don't want to give away a penalty. And then unfortunately he slips at the vital moment and does that sort of kick the ball into your standing foot, and it loops up over the bar. So that was unfortunate. But I thought those were far clearer opportunities. And I think Azaz had one where I think the defender got a block in the penalty area as well, which, I mean, that was probably one where there might have been a square pass. But yeah, those were far clearer chances than a lot of the ones we created in the second half, where we were. I mean, Coventry. I mean, you could tell they were absolutely more than happy to get out of St Mary's with a point, and fair play to them. They'd earned the right to play that way and not be remotely concerned about trying to win the game because they're that far ahead in the table. They draw away at the team that's second in the form table. Absolutely fine for the league leaders. They'll be. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and ultimately, you saw the reaction from fans, players, and manager alike at full time as to kind of how big that point might be for them. Because I mean, if we'd kind of put in one of those sort of attacking performances that we've seen attacking the Chapel End in the last month or so, if we put one of those sort of performances in, like we saw against Leicester, like we saw against West Brom, like we saw against Sheffield Wednesday in patches, then we probably blow them away in that second half. And actually, once you get the second goal, Coventry then do need to come out and try and kind of wrestle something back from the game, and then it opens up for you. But we never really quite looked like doing it. Keepers made a few saves, but most of them have been fairly regulation. I don't think there was anything that was kind of nothing sort of out of this world. I mean, Bazunu made 2 good saves in the first half. I thought that I mean their keepers not had anything of that kind of magnitude to deal with. So yeah, a little bit disappointing that the final ball wasn't there, and I think at times we just didn't have enough bodies in the box. Like the number of times that Cienza managed to get himself in behind the fullback, and the cutback was to, like, there were 2 Coventry defenders in that middle area around the penalty spot, and no Saints player for 10 yards. So yeah, I mean, what Glenn mentioned about possibly taking the centre back off probably 20 minutes to go. I mean, we made enough substitutions to have done that shift. And yeah, I was quite surprised that we didn't go with a back four, or even, I mean, what would effectively have been a back two, really.
I'll ask you about the subs in a minute, Steve, because I know you were talking about the shape and having to change the shape. George, I just want to ask about, thank you for joining us, by the way. I can confirm that Alfie is not still on his pub crawl. That finished. It was all good, as far as we're aware. He's just heading home for Christmas. So George is with us tonight. Obviously, to concede a goal from a cross into a box, having spoken about that during the week, and they were saying that they were working on that. I know Frank Lampard afterwards was saying that they were trying to do that because they knew it was our Achilles heel. We could all see it coming, and it's just another really crap goal to concede.
Yeah, it's no surprise, really, is it? If you were going to try and put a bet on how Saints would concede a goal, you'd have bet that it would come from a cross. And if you watch it back, you almost see Harwood-Bellis telling Wellington seemingly to go and mark the other bloke, and then decides to not mark us, and he's just told Wellington to no longer mark, and he goes and scores. Whether it's defending the ball once it's come into the box, or it's actually stopping the cross, whatever they're doing, they're not doing it well enough, are they? And I know Tom Dereckert said he's trying to give them a bit more detail of sort of position of body, position of head, all these sorts of little details, and clearly they haven't been able to work on it enough before the Coventry game. And I'll be surprised if everyone goes and does that now, just knocks in as many balls into the box as they can against Saints. A little bit like it looked like when Saints were playing under Will Still, where it was just knock the ball in and hope it does something, because Saints can't seem to score that way, but they can concede plenty of goals that way. And to be fair, I don't know if that's how Oxford play, but if it's not, then they probably should try and play that way.
It looked like he was, I mean, we're all moaning about Harwood-Bellis, obviously, and a few people have spotted the same thing as you, but it looks like maybe Ryan Manning at fault for not a bit of ball watching, perhaps. Was he shifting the blame a bit to perhaps the fullbacks and the sixes?
I think they're all to blame, really, aren't they? Obviously, you want the player to actually stop the cross, and Ryan Manning was sort of just seemingly stood there, and he reacted a bit too slowly to it. But
he was 10 yards behind the guy who crossed the ball.
He was.
10 yards the wrong side of the guy who crossed the ball. So, yeah.
I think you could almost just draw a circle around all of them and say they're the ones to blame, really, because you can't have, I think someone said earlier, there's 7 players in and around it. The player has to stop it from coming in, and once it's come in, someone has to deal with it, and they don't, and they go 1-0 down just before half time. I thought Coventry probably actually deserved to be ahead. I disagreed with what Tom Dereckert said after the game. He didn't think that Coventry was sort of deserving to be ahead. He thought Saints were quite good in the first half. I didn't think they were much, other than that chance where Adam Armstrong got played in. I thought they were pretty poor. They've gone from looking like a team who were going to score every time they went forward, looking like that anymore. And obviously there's circumstances for this game. It's Coventry. They're very good, and they were never going to be able to keep up that level of attacking, free-flowing football that they had at the start under Tonda. But I think we're starting to see them a little bit now, when the going gets tough, slipping into those old habits of just knocking the ball into Adam Armstrong, who we've seen over many years is not going to win from crosses. And I know it's all they can do, really, at the end of the game when Coventry are packing the box. But if you've got Cameron Archer and Adam Armstrong in the box, you're not going to score from a cross unless you go and stick Harwood-Bellis or Jack Stevens up front. No one's going to win a header. And to be fair, half the crosses weren't even getting near the striker, let alone sort of the striker taking them. So yeah, it never felt like Saints were going to sort of get the 3 points, even though they had 15 shots after their equaliser.
Were you surprised, George, that Tom Fellows didn't start, given that we were told he was 50-50 for the Norwich game? Then they said, well, he's had a great week of training. You know, it's all looking good. Were you surprised that he wasn't starting?
I was less surprised that he wasn't starting than I was surprised that Wellington was starting on the right as a left back, because when Tom Fellows got injured, it was sort of 10 days was when he could be back. So I don't know if he was ever as fit as they wanted maybe to suggest that he would be. I think he probably could have come on a little bit earlier than he did if he was able to play sort of a 45 minutes. But no, I wasn't too surprised to see him on the bench, but it was obviously a massive blow, because as was mentioned already, if you put Wellington out there, you're just not going to get the same type of attacking football. You're not going to have someone like Leo Cienza who can drive up the pitch, because that was the only way Saints were really creating anything in the first half. And but if it means that Tom Fellows can play the next sort of 10 games, they haven't risked anything, then ultimately I think that's much better than him starting the game and sort of hobbling off with another groin problem.
It was definitely like a Will Still side, Glenn, that second half, wasn't it? We haven't seen it for, we played, let's be honest, 45 minutes against 10 men, and we weren't able to find a winner. We haven't seen that really from a Tonda Eckert side yet. It just reminded me a bit of watching the Will Still side. Like, we ain't going to score here.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit the bit from when Nathan Wood scored almost until the final whistle, it kind of passed me by a little bit. There wasn't a lot to get excited about or a feeling that the goal was imminent at any point. And as Steve highlighted, they had two central defenders who've not played together before, barely played this season. They looked shaky whenever the ball went anywhere near them, but we just didn't seem to, create as much going forward and, to put them under that much pressure. I mean, I thought the problem in the first half was a lack of options to pass forward to. So we end up knocking it around the back, and then someone inevitably, as George says, goes long to Adam Armstrong, and it comes straight back most of the time. And then this was the issue with playing Wellington on the right, because every time Wellington got the ball, he was usually facing his own goal. So he had the choice of going back where he came, or trying to switch it to someone infield, which is a risky pass. There was one occasion where he tried to boom it right over to Cienza on the left hand side, and it didn't get there, and Coventry broke upon us. And yeah, so that I was very surprised that sort of Wellington was picked to play there. I know Ryan Fraser wasn't great in the last game we had up at Norwich, but yeah, I thought he probably would have been a better option to start, or Jay Robinson even. But probably because it's Coventry at home, didn't want to risk playing Robinson there. But yeah, I mean, the second half, though it was better. Just as I said earlier, I never felt we really moved the ball quick enough. I thought when we got it in and around the penalty area, it looked like something might happen, but I felt like we could have done that a lot more often than what we did. There was also some strangeness going on in the first half as well, with Casper Yander taking goal kicks. I have no idea what that's about. I'm sure there's some.
It was weird, and it stopped in the second half, didn't it? But it was.
Yeah, I'm sure there was some. There's probably some very well thought out technical reason why it was a good idea to have Casper Yander taking goal kicks. But I don't know enough about football to know what on earth that was.
But not taking them because the goalkeeper, if you didn't see it, not because the goalkeeper was injured and couldn't do it like you normally get. He was literally just knocking it to Bazunu on the other side of the 6-yard box.
Yeah, usually one of Nathan Wood or Harwood-Bellis takes them and they tap it, and then it goes back to the goalkeeper, and then he decides what to do with it. That's fine. But when Yander did it, there was one less player in midfield to pass to. So if you looked at Flynn Downs' positioning, he was there with Akers all around him and with two players behind him. So he couldn't give him the ball. So inevitably, there were less options. So we ended up going long again. And yeah, it was strange. But as you say, it got abandoned at half time. So there was obviously something that they noticed at half time and saw wasn't working. But yeah, it was a weird game from an attacking perspective from us. I mean, I thought the first half as well, but yeah, the second half we didn't really do enough to warrant coming away with 3 points there, or deservedly sort of coming away with 3 points. We might have nicked it, I guess, but no, not enough for me. And yeah, we've got to make sure we don't.
Probably came closest, really, didn't he, with that leap at the far post, which the ref weirdly thought was a foul.
Yeah,
it's a good jump, but I mean, if you're relying on sending your goalkeeper up with 5 minutes to go to get a winner against 10 men, then yes,
proper weird.
So
sending your goalkeeper up and then playing it short as well, which is the other thing.
That was the worst thing.
Short.
Go on, George.
Bazunu, in fairness to Bazunu, he's got, unless he's gone up before and I can't remember it, were the ones that he hasn't been successful. He's actually got a ridiculous success rate. You've got the one this season with Tonda Eckert where he hits the crossbar against Real Madrid. You've got the one at Preston where he forced an own goal. So when he came up, I actually thought there's a solid chance he scores or does something here. And then they went short, and then the ball went into the box. They almost fluffed it, and suddenly I thought, oh my God, Coventry are going to go up the other end and they're going to score a winner. But then they had another corner and they did a bit better with that one. But I wasn't that surprised really that you went maybe with the timing in the game, but yeah, I think they try to go for the win. And
I do think because when he went up, I'm pretty sure they were down to 9 men as well, because one of the fake injuries he'd had to gone off.
Matt Grimes,
so there was a time when they were down to 9. And I'm thinking, oh my god, it's now or never. And then of course it was the foul on the keeper. But you made a good point, Steve, about I think the subs and just kind of like changing the shape a little bit and not for the better.
Yeah, I mean, I get why. Like each of the subs in terms of which player you're bringing off. Okay, fine. That player either needs a rest or they're not having a particularly good game, or you've got kind of a like-for-like replacement who bit more freshness might sort of bring a little bit of fresh impetus into the game. But none of the subs were. It was a little bit like the subs that Will Still was being criticised for earlier in the season, where you'd make a sub that necessitated somebody moving position, and every subsequent was then moving somebody else around to create space and move somebody else into the role. And I think the first one where Yander came off, and it then meant Azaz dropping into the centre midfield, just seemed to completely throw everybody. Like Azaz looked even more all at sea than he did in the previous hour or so when he was in his proper position. Flynn Downs alongside him wasn't quite sure what he was, which areas he was supposed to be covering, whether his role had changed from that substitution, whether he was now kind of the one guy sitting deep, or whether Azaz was alongside him. Didn't seem sort of immediately clear. And there seemed to be a little bit of confusion on that. And I mean, not being funny, when you've played 40 odd minutes against 10 men, they've shown. I mean, Coventry, I don't think had a shot in the second half that I can remember. So there was obviously no ambition from them. They took Mason Clark off after about an hour and brought on another left back. So it was very obvious what Coventry's intention was. Right, we sit in, we see what we can get out of this.
They did it well as well,
just as a defensive force, and all they had to do was be organised.
Yeah,
because we didn't quite have the impetus or the speed of thought. It was the speed of the passing that was frustrating. The fact that we weren't shifting them quickly. If we were able to ping those passes a little bit faster, then all of a sudden you then open up a few little spaces in channels, and that allows your creative players to cause absolute havoc. But there was a moment midway through the second half where I think we played 5 or 6 successive passes, like unchallenged passes to teammates, and every single one of them, the recipient had to stretch for it. It's like, these are basic 5-10 yard passes, and you're passing it like 3 yards to the guy's right. So he's had to kind of step out of position to just to even have a chance of keeping that ball under control. And it just showed a little bit of, I don't know, lack of thought, lack of composure, which frustrating. And I mean the one obvious thing when you're against 10 men for that long who aren't looking to attack you, we've still played the entire 90 minutes with 3 centre backs.
Yeah.
When I mean, you could have chucked Josh Kwasi up front. If you're not going to make the systematic change of removing a centre back like through substitutions, okay, fine. You stick either Kwasi or Harwood-Bellis up front, because they'll both.
But they've got more touches than Cameron Archer, wouldn't they?
I mean,
two touches, George. I think I saw
two touches, 1 offside.
I didn't realise that until I read that today when you're rating, but I didn't realise it was that bad.
But I mean, I said to a mate when Archer came on, I said, the problem is with Coventry basically defending on the 18-yard box, there is no space for Cam Archer to do what we know that he can do well, and that is playing off the shoulder. And because those passes aren't going to be available. And obviously throw in the fact that he's massively out of form or out of confidence, which delete is applicable. I think that was probably a substitution that was maybe a little bit doomed from the beginning. But then you look at the bench, and I mean, I guess Jay Robinson was the only or Ryan Fraser were the only other options, and neither have really done an awful lot when they've had an opportunity lately. So yeah, difficult one.
It's quite interesting that he only made 2 subs. You know, I mean, I was moaning at the start of the season that we seem to make 5 no matter what. You know, it was like, oh, I've got 5, let's make 5. But he only made 2, and I think that probably speaks to what Steve was just saying there about the options off the bench. I mean, I personally thought Robinson would have been a better bet than Archer to come on, but bringing on a striker in that scenario is not the worst idea in the world. Obviously, you need a goal, but Archer is massively out of form, as Steve has said, and as we all know, and not really a different profile player to Adam Armstrong. I mean, out of the current squad, you want. I was going to say Damien Downs, so I'm not going to say that. But you want Ross Stewart to be fit as a slightly different option to come off the bench, and I don't know how far away he is. I don't know enough about Nick Oyakunle to know what sort of, you know, whether he'd be a better option than Cameron Archer. From what I see, he looks a similar profile of player. So would that make a massive difference? But it's difficult. I mean, if he wants to put a striker on, or he wants another presence up front, what sort of message are you sending if you leave Cameron Archer on the bench and chuck Josh Kwasi up front?
Yeah,
you know, I know you might. That's another conversation as well. But I mean, I guess that's what you're paid for as manager, to make difficult decisions like that if you feel that that's the way to win the game. But yeah, on the face of it, it's difficult to have an impact in a positive way with the bench that we've got. You know, Archer's out of form. Robinson's probably a little bit out of form as well. He hasn't played much. Aribo's out of everything. And you know,
Ryan Fraser when he runs backwards,
and Ryan Fraser when he runs backwards. So it's not a great collection of options. Maybe they should have brought McCarthy on and shoved Bazunu up front. I don't know, but that's the sort of stuff we're talking about at the moment with the
lack of options
with the subs that we've got. And you know, I mean, I know he said, Johannes Spoor said that we're not going to do much, but we do need to do something in January. Otherwise, we're going to have more games like this where, I mean. And we're going to come again.
It'll be more frustrating if we're unable to beat a side like.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Well, Oxford, we're playing next.
Oxford, Charlton, someone like that at home, than the league leaders. Okay, league leaders, you can kind of shrug your shoulders and say, "Well, it is what it is. It's not the worst point in the world." But I mean, that Swansea game was obviously seen as a bit of a disaster because we didn't win it, having played so well and created 5 million chances. But at least we actually created the chances in that game. Other games that certainly don't stick in the memory are ones where we've not been able to kind of break the teams down and create the chances. And that's definitely a concern going into these. I mean, obviously we've got the stupid Christmas run of fixtures where, I mean, everyone's going to be absolutely knackered by the time we traipse up to Middlesbrough. Yeah. I mean, God knows what sort of quality of football we're going to be seeing from everybody after 5 games in the space of 2 weeks. But long live Sky Sports, I suppose.
It is what it is. There's a couple of things I want to chat about just before we move on. The Kwasi in for Stevens, George. Again, I mean, it looks like we can expect to see that maybe a bit more often than perhaps we thought. I'm just interested, so obviously Josh Kwasi offers a bit of height and a bit of pace. So what is it that Stevens offers instead? And do you think that's going to carry on, just like interchanging the two of them depending on the opposition?
Yeah, I think it might do, to be fair. He seems to do it at home. I don't think he's done it away. It feels like it's always at home he makes that change. And obviously Coventry have got good forwards. They've got some pace up there. He hasn't ever really told us why he does it, other than he wants a bit of pace to deal with. It was particularly for Tawu, who he wanted some pace to deal with. I think he probably just views them as being quite similar. You don't really drop a captain unless you don't think he's probably one of your better centre-backs, right? Because if you've got the armband, it's almost a guarantee that you start. But it's Nathan Wood and it's Harwood-Bellis that he doesn't seem to want to drop for whatever reason. Because in my predicted team, I anticipated that Cour would come in. I thought it'd be for Nathan Wood because he's not really been at his best recently. But he didn't. He took Jack Stevens out of the team for Cour. So whatever it is, there's clearly something. I don't really know what it is, because what you get with Kouachi, you don't get with Stevens, but then perhaps some of the stuff you get with Stevens, you don't get with Kouachi. They're not really, I don't think either of them are particularly amazing at anything. What Jack Stevens does have is obviously the experience. And I couldn't tell you really why you pick one or the other for any given game. It's pretty much roll the dice on whichever one you land on.
Maybe it's either a leadership thing. Maybe I've been overthinking it today. It's either a leadership thing or maybe just trying to keep them both happy. But I wonder what the conversation is like with Jack Stevens, where you go, well, actually they're not as much of a threat up front. They're not as fast, so you're starting.
I don't think Jack Stevens has been playing particularly well when he plays. He's kind of sort of been there, but I'm not seeing much that he's bringing to the party, to be honest. I think if Jack Stevens was playing well, or as well as he can, he would be in the team every week. I don't think he's particularly adding a great deal at the moment. I mean, Kouachi, I'm not his biggest fan. He's a bit of an accident waiting to happen, I think, at the back. He does slow the game down, which we didn't want, particularly in that second half. So, it wasn't his worst game yesterday. He didn't have the most sort of like pressure put on him. At the moment, the two of them probably are interchangeable in terms of standard of performance. But I think I wonder if Jack Stevens is carrying some sort of injury that means he can't sort of like play every 4 days or whatever it is we're asking them to do at the moment. So yeah, but I think if Jack Stevens gets up to his best form, I think he'd be in the team, and that's the only real reason that I can think of at the moment why he's swapping people over. And but it always seems to be, Ronnie Edwards seems to have disappeared altogether, doesn't he?
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah, and I think he's seen as the replacement for Harwood-Bellis if he can't play. It's that sort of hybrid right centre back, right back thing that we do when Fellows is in the team. But yeah, I mean, I'd have, to be honest, I'd prefer Ronnie Edwards to be given a chance ahead of both of the other two. But it doesn't seem to be the way it's going at the moment, and I think it's widely sort of thought that he may be playing for someone else come January.
Yeah, potentially. I want to talk about it all kicking off after the game as well. Steve, that's your fault. I'm blaming you. Were you giving Frank Lampard a bit of stick for that last 20 minutes?
I wasn't personally. I couldn't be bothered, but I don't think he kind of even deserves our attention personally. But I was amused by the reference to his uncle. The others were a little bit puerile, and it's like, well, why? What has he done for us to be targeting Frank Lampard as opposed to any other opposition manager? Not quite sure, but I mean, it was all quite funny in the end, wasn't it? That he got so riled up about it that he decided it'd be fun to spark a 22-man brawl. But it's actually one of those things, isn't it? That one thing that we've criticised this team for in the last 18 months has been a perceived lack of fight when things are going against you. And I mean, those full-time kind of incidents kind of do demonstrate that there is some kind of desire there, and they're going to defend each other. And
it was Cienza, wasn't it? I think first, and then Wellington. Yeah. But no surprise from Cienza, really.
The Cienza thing was weird because it looked as if he was kind of being perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden, one of the Coventry lads comes over, and Wellington kind of barges into his path, and it all then kind of
someone hit the deck,
there.
Didn't they? And then
there's a still of one of the Coventry, I think it's one of the Coventry backroom team, basically trying to do a rugby tackle on Cienza. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, you idiot? But I mean, both teams will get fined for that. I'm absolutely certain.
Do you reckon? Do you think?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it'll be failing to control your players.
It's Frank Lampard's fault.
Lampard will
100%
probably get. Lampard will get a fine as well, I would imagine.
He apologised straight away, didn't he? He apologised afterwards.
That's just.
I mean, he apologised from the sanctity of the media room.
Yeah.
While he was out on the pitch, he was quite happy to kind of wind it all up and crank everything up to 11. It was just weird. It's just like there's no. it's not a case of no need for it. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, we all enjoyed it. It was entertaining, given that actually the last 10, 15 minutes of that game was really, really frustrating. Actually, I think a lot of people the people that stuck around to full time and saw that actually will have left the ground with a little bit more adrenaline pumping through them than they would have done if they'd just gone at full time without that happening. So I do wonder whether actually that might have. I mean, maybe we're talking about this on after Boxing Day, and we've gone to Oxford and we've just blown away, and all the players were sort of well up for it, and it all kind of happened because they finally got riled up about something.
Yeah, because I think Sky was showing it. Obviously, I don't know whether it was live or whether they, they'd shown it when they came back to it. But basically, it was on the big screen when you came out of the chapel, like in the little fan zone bit there. So everyone was rushing over to watch the handbags on the big screen. But you'd have been in that press conference, I guess, afterwards, George, when he came in, and was that the first thing he was asked about?
Actually, no, it wasn't. It was the Coventry reporter left that one for last, and then I think Frank Lampard sort of apologised for it, said he was out of order, but also said he was within his rights. So I enjoyed it, to be fair. I thought it was great fun to watch.
Which is it? You can't be both.
Yeah, I did think
you're either within your rights or you're out of order. It's not. I mean, the two things on the Venn diagram don't really cross over, I don't think.
When I was trying to write afterwards.
Frank Lampard has been involved in football since the moment he was born. He was born into a football family. He's got obviously his dad and his uncle Harry and all that. He's been involved in football
nepo baby, isn't he?
Since he was a kid. He knows that you don't react to the crowd, you don't wind up opposition supporters, especially when you're a manager. He knows that. So it's pathetic playing to the gallery. Why he needs to play to the gallery to make himself more popular with Coventry fans? He couldn't be more popular with Coventry fans. So why bother? It's just like a ridiculous, childish thing to do. And the excuse he gave, that they said hurty words to me. I mean, piss off, mate, for God's sake. Like, I mean, I remember him sat in a press conference at West Ham when he was 18.
Could have come out with a lot worse.
Yeah, I remember him being sat in a press conference at West Ham when he was 18, and they were basically slagging him off, saying he didn't deserve to be in the team because he's a nepo baby and all this sort of stuff. So he's known that his entire life. And I mean, I always thought he was quite intelligent. He comes across as quite intelligent, but I don't know what on earth he was playing out there. It makes no difference at the end of the day, and I think there's no negative side of it. Yes, we might get a fine, but we shouldn't, because basically he started it and caused the whole thing. Yeah.
Well, let's see what happens this week. Anything else on the game? We've got to move on. Anything else on the game from the weekend?
I think so.
No.
Do you want to do Player of the Week? We haven't done our nominations for Player of the Week. Who was your standout performer, George? It was not the highest scores today, was it, out of 10? I think you might have been a couple of 7s.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who I actually gave the best rating to. I think I probably gave Cienza a 7, as I always tend to do. That's pretty much my finger presses that button before I've even thought about it. At least a 7 usually. I think he actually gave his boots away to someone, is what I've been told after the game. So he's running out of things to give fans for the cult.
There's more signs every week, isn't there? There's more signs popping up.
I was actually took a picture before. I didn't post it on Twitter, and I took another picture. I looked at them, 2 of them. There was about twice the amount of people. Yeah, I think he was probably the only player who ever really looked like creating something. It's just the bit at the end that he didn't have.
Yeah, it's a shame. Any other names, Steve, Glenn, put in this poll?
Well, I think
Rees-Julian made a couple of decent saves first half. Yeah. Obviously, I mean, arguably came closest to scoring a winner.
Yeah, true.
So. No, I mean, Stranger will win it for basically carrying the attack on his own for the vast majority of the game. But if I had to pick anyone else out, it'd probably be Flynn Downs. Yeah, he had another decent game in the centre midfield. I thought Casper Yander was okay as well, though. He is showing, for me, he's showing signs of getting a little bit tired. So I don't anticipate him playing in every game over this Christmas period.
Well, Charles must be back soon, surely.
Well, he's had a setback, hasn't he?
Oh, was he?
Yeah, that was last week.
Great.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a setback, so maybe they've got to look at, excuse me, getting Romeo in the team.
That's one point I made in the talking points, is I don't understand the plan to get Romeo fit by giving him 4 minutes or giving him no minutes. Obviously, the 21s aren't playing now, so he can't go and play for them. Maybe he would have played against RB Leipzig, but you've only really got Cam Bragg. Joe Rebo's not going to play as a 6. We've seen that, and he's not fit himself either. So they've brought Romeo in. He's been here now about a month, and the longest he's played in a game is the one against Millwall, where he played 14 minutes and however many minutes there was in added time. So we might get to a point. Yanda's never played through a winter break, and Romeo might have to start, or Cam Bragg might have to come back into the team. And I feel like they could have just given, even if you chuck Romeo on at centre back, you'd have moved the ball a bit quicker.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing is, Flynn Downs, we know now that there's always a chance that he might have to miss a game. So I think there will be a change up in midfield at some point. And Romeo and Cam Bragg, as it stands at the moment, will probably be given a chance. But I agree with George. I think, I mean, Romeo could play as a left-sided centre back as well, and as you say, would have moved the ball a little bit quicker than what we were seeing in that second half in particular. But you would think there's a plan for him, because I can't imagine his wages are cheap in the context of the squad. So you would want to be getting a little more out of him.